I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce, man. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you what a loss? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance, man. I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce, man. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you what a loss? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance, man.
Any players that's here now, put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. Listen, there are going to be some challenges, but with challenges becomes opportunity, gets opportunity. But here's what I do know. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
And here we go. So, what's good? Hey, welcome back to the Hangar HangOut. Got a special one for you guys today. Honestly, man, if I'm being honest, I was kind of hoping this one was going to be more of a joyful Hangar HangOut. We're talking about getting the rosters down to the final 53 man and a lot of question marks in regards to what happened or what we're seeing right now in terms of this current initial 53 man roster. We got a special guest in the building tonight, man. We got Dom C in the building. He's going to go ahead and kind of walk us through it, man, kind of give us his thought process on some of these moves that the Jets made. I don't know how Jets Nation is feeling right now, but personally, I feel like I don't know, man. I feel like I'm a little upset. I felt like there were some moves that just didn't make much sense to me. But then again, you know what I'm saying? I was also a big fan of the Malachi Cordy pick, right? And obviously you saw how that turned out. So I'm obviously not a professional when it comes to doing this thing. However, it seems like it's a collective like head scratcher in terms of some of the moves that were made. Why is Gibson still on this team? Why didn't we keep a guy like freaking Pritchett on the roster? Why did Skinner get let go and Smith? Like it's a lot of things right now that has us wondering, like the WTF, like what's happening. So it is what it is. We're gonna go ahead and talk about it, man. You're with me tonight on the Hangar HangOut. We're talking about the 53 man roster. As you can see in the bottom, man, we're on our way to 2K subscribers. First of all, congratulations to my boy Connor Long for hitting 2K subs, bro. Hey, man, applause, because I remember when you started this game, I was ahead of the game. I was ahead of you, and here you are. You surpassed me, bro. I love to see that. Jets fans are coming out in droves right now in terms of supporting their content creators. So, again, on the road to go ahead and try to catch Connor, trying to go ahead and get the 2K subscribers. We're going to be doing a autographed Joe Namath jersey giveaway to one lucky subscriber of the first 2K subscribers on the YouTube channel. So help me get there. We're at about 17 plus now. We got about 240 to go to get to 2,000 subscribers, and then we can go ahead and do that awesome giveaway. So again, help me out every Tuesday night. Hangout. We're going to be having a lot of fun this season. Got some cool giveaways coming through. Shout out again to the Fire team members. If you have not seen your message board, go check it out. I want to make sure that every Fire team member gets a chance at potentially securing that last roster spot on our free fantasy football league. For my Fire team members, the champion, of course, is going to be getting an autographed jersey or autographed football, whichever one winds up being decided by the champion once the season comes to an end. So there's one slot left. If you haven't already checked out the message board for you Fire team members, channel members, go check it out right now. The link is in that description. Go ahead and click in. First come, first serve. I think we need one more. We can go ahead and set the draft for this week. Okay, without further ado, the 53-man roster is set. Today was NFL cut day. You saw that for some reason Travis Kelce and what's her name? Travis Kelce and, wow, y'all know who she is, decided to go ahead and do their engagement announcement today, right? Right in the middle of, some of the worst days of some, guys who've been playing football their entire lives. Thought that was kind of an odd day to announce an engagement, but to each their own. Anyway, it's NFL cut day. The Jets have gotten out to the 53-man roster, and we're going to talk about it, man. Tonight, we got Dom C in the building. Without further ado, let's bring him out here. Dom C of Talking Jets. What's good, Dom? How you living, bro?
Gunny, my guy. How are you, brother? Thanks for having me on again, man.
Hey, man. Thanks for coming, man. Thanks for coming. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. You're a family man. You also got a couple of podcasts, your work that you do as well. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk Jets tonight with us. specifically on a daylight cut day, right, where the Jets just narrowed it down to their final 53 or their initial 53-man roster, and a lot of question marks, man. So I kind of wanted to pick your brain. You're one of those guys I know who's deep in the film. You know what I'm saying? You analyze talent. You've been doing it for quite some time now. I've learned a lot from you in regards to what to look for when it comes to talent. And I gotta tell you, man, for me, I think I saw some things that just didn't make much sense as to what the Jets did.
Okay.
Maybe it's just me. So we're gonna go ahead and see what you think about this. So first, let's go ahead and talk about the waiver. So we saw the waiver. They did 3 waivers, I believe it was, and we've got injured reserve. They've got Irvin Charles, Byron Cowart, and Jamarcus Weston. How do you feel about the move to put these 3 players on injured reserve?
Well, I mean, Irv Charles is still recovering from the torn ACL, so he might be there all year for all we know. That was a given. Byron Cowart and Jamarcus Weston are interesting though, because I believe only Weston. I could be wrong. Now somebody can fact check me, but I believe only Weston is designated to return. I think Byron Cowart might be out for the season. Again, quote me if I'm wrong, guys. I got no problem. I just didn't get a chance to look for sure, but I think that LaMarcus Weston can be activated after 4 weeks. He got hurt in that last game.
Right.
This is a special teams dog, and really, I think that when you look at the bottom of the roster as it stands right now, again, this 53 that we're looking at today will not be the same 53 that's on stage on Saturday's practice for instance. So there's going to be some moving and shaking at the bottom of the board. But come week 5, I think they're going to have to make a decision on Jamarcus Weston or whoever their linebacker 5 is. Is that Kiko Mayanoa? Is that Zaire Barnes? Is that Marcelino McCrary-Ball? They're going to have to make a decision at that point. So, I think he's probably the only one that we're going to see this year. The other 2 won't. We probably won't. And again, I think I'm correct on Byron Cowart being out for the year.
Okay.
So
I'm seeing that the ankle injury is considered to be. They're still checking it out. I don't see anything that says he's out for the year. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, right? I don't think did they specify if it was short-term IR? I don't think they did.
Yes, they do. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
All right. Yeah, I was looking at the injured list, man, and I was a little surprised by that. I wasn't. I knew Byron Cowart was going to go ahead and be put on there. That was a given. Jamarcus Weston, I guess, on the back end, it made sense to them to go ahead and go that route.
Yeah.
I just feel like in terms of, like, again, Lazard is somebody who I thought would potentially be on this list, and then we would have wind up keeping a guy like Skinner or well, we're going to talk about these guys too, like, Skinner or Smith in his stead, but they went with this particular route. Is Byron Cowart out for the season?
Byron Cowart is out for the season.
There it is. That explains.
Yeah, he was placed. He was placed on injured reserve, so he's not designated to return, meaning he's done for the season. Jamarcus Weston was placed on the IR, designated to return. Irv Charles is just on the, the PUP. He'll have, however many weeks. Once he comes off, I think they have 3 weeks to activate him or release him. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right, well, then there you have it. So Byron Cowart is out for the season, which makes a lot more sense in regards to the trades that were made over this past week to go ahead and bring in some defensive tackle help. That explains a lot. Yep. All right, well, I know we've already got somebody built in. Waste no time, man. He came right in, Gibson over Pritchett, and he laughed about it. So today there were some cuts, and I think there's some people who are going to feel some type of way about them. I know personally. I felt some type of way in regards to the decisions that were made. So I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit and kind of get an idea of how you feel in regards to some of these moves. So today the final cuts came down, and the New York Jets wind up letting go JBC, DB, Dean Clark, Jordan Clark, Brady Cook, Malachi Corley, Donovan Edwards, surprise for me there, Jonathan Kingsley, Cole Lavaro, Harrison Mevis, Peyton Page, Jamal Pritchett. Huge surprise for me there. I'm not going to lie to you. I really thought Jamal made this team.
Yeah, so did
Jackson Simon, Quentin Skinner, which hurt my freaking feelings because that was the guy I wanted. I was willing to let go of Lazard if it meant keeping Skinner on this roster. Aaron Smith, Brandon Smith, Carter Warren, Eric Watts, Leander Wilgan, and Jarius Monroe. So these were the final cuts the Jets made today. And of course, they let go of individuals like Kuntz and stuff, but people that we weren't really excited about, not real game changers. But on this list, I kind of felt like there's some individuals on this list that could have contributed to this roster, specifically Jamal Pritchett. And I'm going to go straight to that in terms of the New York Jets kept Gibson over Pritchett. Why? What are they seeing that we're not seeing?
Yeah, Gunny, I wish I could tell you. I wish I knew. That's the one. That's really the only one that had me scratching my head or somewhat disappointed, if you will. Listen, call it what it is. Xavier Gibson either has some naked photos of Brick Johnson or he's somebody owes him some, a huge favor because he's on this roster year after year based off of one kick return. Now, granted, might have been one of the most exciting plays I've ever seen. I've ever seen live for sure. But it might have. I don't know what he's done. Somebody posted on Twitter. I give him credit if I remember who it was. But they said in Xavier Gibson's career so far with the Jets, as a returner, he has 6 returns that have netted over 20 yards. And 9 fumbles.
Jeez.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know what it is. Like I said, I just thought that Jamal Pritchett, really just outplayed and won that job. Now Xavier Gibson wasn't healthy for a lot of the preseason, also, which is even more concerning. Like I don't know if they think that Xavier Gibson can offer something more offensively than Pritchett. I don't know if the goal is to not, maybe they're going to have, once Isaiah Davis is healthy, maybe they're going to have him return kicks or return punts as well. I don't know. That's the one that I cannot really get my hands or understanding about. The rest of them I do. There was a lot of bitching and excuse my language and moaning about the JBC Cup, but that one I get. He's a good player, but it came down to it. You had 2 outside cornerbacks in Quantez Stiggers and JBC, and one of them is an outstanding special teams player, and the other one's named JBC. So
fair enough.
That's what happened there. I thought a lot of people were overly sensitive about JBC getting cut. No, I don't. Like, I could see that. I understand that. I just can't really wrap my head on the Gibson over Pritchett. And I see somebody posted in the, in the chat that, and like I said early on, this is today's 53. It's not going to be the 53 that goes into week 1. I'm assuming they're going to make some claims on some guys and this and that. And Gibson might be one of those guys that gets, kind of gets dunked. Now, listen, maybe he's not healthy, and maybe they plan on, putting him on, some sort of injury reserve or something like that. And, they're just trying to bide some time. I don't know. I don't know. I can't put my finger around the Gibson Pritchett thing. Quentin Skinner, fine. You're paying Lazard. Lazard has a purpose on this team, and that's to, be a big body, a big slot that can offer something as a run blocker on a team that's going to be heavily geared around the run. And Lazard's probably, one of the top 3, top 5 wide receivers in the league in terms of run blocking efficiency and effectiveness. So I get Lazard, plus you're paying him a lot of money. It's last year, so on and so forth. You look at this wide receiver group, and the only thing that tells me is that be prepared for 40, 45 totes of the rock on the ground. They're not going to throw the ball at all.
All right. I mean, that's fair, right? But then how do you explain Donovan Edwards? I really thought Donovan Edwards made a statement in regards to why he should be that fourth running back in that room. It's going to be a run-heavy freaking team. Isaiah Davis is a little bit banged up right now. I feel that's kind of a miss right there in terms of a guy like Donovan Edwards, keeping him on the roster, seeing what he's done in training camp and in preseason.
Yeah, I think he'll be on the roster, Gunny. I think he'll be on the practice squad. Remember, like these guys, we've had the Donovan Edwards of the world, in our world before. We had him a couple years ago in Bam Knight and Michael Carter and all these guys that that we as Jets fans kind of see on a more intimate level during training camp and whatnot, and kind of fall in love. Truth be told, Donovan Edwards, I think, is just a guy. He's just this year's version of Bam Knight. So I think he's going to slip through, and I think he's going to probably get on the practice squad. And if Isaiah Davis doesn't prove healthy, in weeks 1, 2, or 3, or say he re-aggravates it, they can they can just call him up off the practice squad and activate him for that week. I think Ken Ngannou has shown some. Well, not only the special team chops. I mean, he's probably the best kick returner they got, one of the best in the league. But he's even showing some chops and some giddy up in the backfield as a third down back. I think that I'm not necessarily all that concerned about the Edwards not making the team. I didn't have him on my final 53. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at mine right now. There were a couple guys that I had that did not make it. JBC was one. Eric Watts was one, and Brady Cook was one. I thought Brady Cook was going to make the roster, and the reality is that with Tyrod Taylor coming back off of surgery, he hasn't practiced in 2 weeks. Right. And Justin Fields has not been able to get through a full season yet. Nope. His style of play results in him getting banged up. I thought a third quarterback was going to be something some sort of a necessity. They obviously don't think so unless they plan on claiming one.
Yeah, I don't see a situation where they really honestly or realistically go into the season with just those two quarterbacks. Both guys have had health issues. They've never been able to complete a full season. I don't know the last time Tyrod completed a full season. There's no way, logically speaking, that you go into the season with two injury-prone running backs who are mobile guys who like to run, and they don't tend to protect themselves that well when they're scrambling, that you don't have a guy behind those guys. So I was surprised by either him or Martinez. I was surprised. Adrian Martinez. I was surprised that not one of them made the roster. But I do see that there were some individuals that have been let go. I've seen a lot of the Jets fans talk about bringing Mike White back. I think that was a fun experiment. But you're talking about an offense that would have to drastically change to go ahead and accommodate a guy like Mike White. Personally, I like Snoop. I see that he's out there as well. Yeah. He's a mobile guy that has a very similar playing style. I don't want to have a backup.
Here's the thing, Gunny. All those guys, you're right. Like they could come in and be Snoop Huntley and Kyle McCord and all these guys can come in and they could be a fine third quarterback, but they don't know the system. You know what I mean? They don't know the system. You had a guy in Brady Cook. Now, Brady Cook's no world beater. You know what I mean? He's an emergency, stopgap. But at least he's been practicing with you. He knows the tendencies. He knows what you're expecting of the offense. He knows the vernacular. He knows the timing. He's got rapport with the players. You could bring a guy in who's done it before, Josh Dobbs or Snoop Huntley or something like that. They don't know the offense.
That's a good point.
That's the caveat, in my opinion.
So, in terms of the defensive edge, right? I'm with you. Eric Watts, another surprise. I thought that he was definitely him, McGregor. They were going to go ahead and find a way on this roster. Clemens is hanging around, man. He's definitely hanging around. Another guy that I put in that same mold of a Gibson. I don't know what he has on the coaching staff or the owner, maybe, that these guys are just uncuttable. 9 lives, however you want to look at it. How does a guy like Clemens stick around when Watts was obviously somebody who I felt shows us a bit more in terms of passing, rushing the quarterback?
Yeah, man, I don't know. They obviously like what he brings, and he's got that that tenacity, that fire, that um, strength that he plays with, and that's really what he offers. I don't think technically he's very sound. Um, he's obviously not going to offer you much as a pass rusher. He's kind of a bull in a china shop, going to try to go through your chest, and it's the quarterback. He's supposed to be more of a early down run setting kind of edge, but I think he kind of overshoots and doesn't kind of hone into his responsibilities and tries to shoot gaps and stuff like that, which gets him in trouble. So, they seem to like him a lot. Now, I think Michael Clemens is very, very valuable in special teams. On the kick blocks and the pump blocks and stuff like that, he's very active and very useful. That's probably where he gets most of his run. Even though last year, he played a lot more on the defense than we would like to think. I can only imagine they're going to bring in another edge. If they put a claim on a guy, I think one of the positions that they could try to hone in on. Now I think wide receiver is going to be one. I also think edge could be one, and I think that I think they should really venture towards another offensive tackle and try to replace either Chooks or Max Mitchell. But that's just me. I think edge could be a position that they look to address, and if they bring somebody in, who has got a little bit more juice or a little bit more giddy up around the edge, maybe that'll cut into some of Michael Clemens' time, and he becomes more of a a first or second down player, or more of like a special teams kind of player. Because they're gonna need this. They're gonna need somebody with a little bit more juice. You have McDonald, who's great, right? But let's call it what it is. We don't know what JJ is going to be like coming back off that Achilles, and again, keeping it a buck. He was never the most explosive, bendy, twitchy kind of edge rusher. He won with, he won with his power. He won with his sheer determination. He wins like that more than he does with, like that speed and bend and stuff. They're going to need another one of those. You know what I mean? They're going to need another one of those guys. So, and I think there's a couple guys out there that would fit the bill. Don't know if if AG is going to, venture down that way. But, without knowing what you really have in JJ, and then having, the kid that they drafted, Barron, who, he's a rookie. He's a rookie 5th rounder for a reason. He's still got a lot of development to do. You have Braden McGregor, who's a nice player. My guess is he's probably going to be inactive most of the time, or not dressed for a couple weeks. So you're going to have to bring in somebody who's got a little bit of juice. That's what I'm thinking.
Now, I don't want you to go ahead and start dropping names yet. I know we got I got Dom's waiver wish list coming up here shortly in tonight's show. But let's talk about the practice squad. You mentioned that there were some individuals you already see coming back. You're not worried about them potentially getting claimed. So when you look at the individuals that were cut, especially some of the Jets favorites, right? The Skinners, the Watts, the Edwards. Like, who do you see will be able to get back on the practice squad from some of the cuts that were made?
I think that there's going to be some guys that there's some interest in. I think JBC, due to his versatility of being able to play outside corner and safety, and him having a little bit of size, I think he's going to be tough to get on the practice squad. I think Malachi Corley is going to be tough to get back on the practice squad because I don't think the Jets want him back. B, I don't think he wants to be here. And C, somebody's going to kind of see or try to take a gamble on some, a free roll on some untapped
third round pick.
A free roll on some untapped potential. Outside of that, I'm not sure there's anybody that I'm really, really scared or concerned that gets plucked. I think the third guy, maybe if I had to put him in order, I'd definitely say JBC first and Malachi Corley second. I think maybe Pritchett third, just because of what he's shown, what he's put on tape in the preseason as a
Yeah.
punt returner. If there's a team that's in need of that, they might roll the dice. But outside of that, I think everyone else is going to slip through. And
Okay.
most of these guys, I know that it's already been discussed that both of the Clarks, Jordan Clark and Dean Clark, kind of already have handshake agreements if they're not claimed that they're going to revert to the practice squad. So that's that's some DB depth right there. I'm assuming that Cole Laval is going to do the same thing. He was on the practice squad all last season. Lender Wingert, he's the NFL international guy, so he'll automatically revert to the practice squad. Yeah, Jarius Monroe is an interesting one. I thought he did enough to make the roster. I thought he did enough to make the 53, but he got hurt in that last game, and it looks like they released him with an injury settlement. So he's going to be free to sign wherever he wants. I think he's going to have to get healthy first. I would love to get him back on the practice squad. Peyton Page is another one. He was a undrafted free agent out of Clemson. Big defensive tackle, good story.
Yeah.
There's no one here that I think is another team's going to claim to put on their active roster. That's the thing. You can say Malachi Corley, because somebody wants to take a gamble or think that they can, find a needle in the haystack in his athletic ability. You could say JBC just because of the lack of depth in the defensive back rooms all over the league, and you could say Pritchett possibly because of his one specific skill.
What do you feel about Carter Warren? I feel like offensive tackle right now is one of those things where, granted, he's not the best offensive tackle, but he's got some starting experience. He could go ahead and fill a nice backup role potentially for some teams. You think he's somebody we can get back on the practice squad?
I forgot about Carter Warren. Yeah, he's another one I think that's probably going to get claimed.
Yeah.
Just because, again, tackles are few and far between. And listen, here's the deal with Carter Warren. Carter Warren's junior year in college, his tape was really, really good. He then proceeded to get hurt as a senior and, missed, played 3 games and then chose to have surgery to repair his torn meniscus, missed the whole season. Never really had a full redshirt season to get healthy, and then was coached or wasn't coached by Keith Carter. You know what I mean? So there was no real time
right.
for him to get stronger and develop. I think in the right system, I think that you can make something of Carter Warren. Is he a starting tackle material? No. Can he start in a pinch? For a couple games if you need him to? Yes. I think it's probably in his best interest to kind of cut ties, have a clean slate, and try, somewhere else.
Okay. So then if you had to go ahead and give me your prediction for what the practice squad is going to look like, or do you see the practice squad being combined just all the guys we've let go, or do you see them pulling from some other teams?
I mean, historically, the teams will always try to re-sign their own guys, right? Because these are guys that already know their system. It doesn't happen all the time, but the majority of the time, you're going to go, you get all these guys, they're all phenomenal athletes, whether they made the 53 or not, but you get this pool of, 40 times 30 is what, 100, 1,200 people, 1,000 players that are thrown in a pool, when it's time for you to fill those 12 or 13 in your practice squad, you're going to go pick the guys that are already familiar with your system. That's why most of these guys revert back to their own practice squad.
Okay. Makes perfect sense.
So if I had, like I said, I think both Dean and Jordan Clark will be back. I think Brady Cook will be there. That's 3. I think Donovan Edwards will be there. That's 4. I think Cole Laval will be there. That's 5. I think Peyton Page will be there. That's 6. I think Skinner will be there. That's 7.
Okay.
I think Brandon Smith will be there. That's 8. I think Eric Watts will be there. That's 9. So I think at least 9 of the 13 slots will be filled by the guys that were on our roster already.
Okay. All right. I can get down with that. So I got a question for you. Well, Kel has a question for you. He asked, what matters and what we need. The only person. Nope. This isn't the one. Boom. Cal, concerning the receivers, I wonder how much influence Justin Fields had on the cutting of certain players. They had to ask him what his thoughts were. That's a good question. Do you think Justin Fields had any input in terms of what that wide receiver room might have looked like?
I don't.
I don't either.
Especially this team. This team watching. What had happened with the previous regime and the previous quarterback who got a little bit too much say. Now, granted, I'm not comparing the stature of Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields, but
I see
you
what
just
you're saying,
watch that happen where the quarterback, I think Justin Fields is coming in here and just, trying to play ball and letting all the personnel decisions and insight. Now, if they asked him, maybe he told them, yeah, listen, I'm more comfortable, I'm more comfortable throwing to A, B, or C than I am to, D, E, or an F. So, I mean, I wouldn't put that past him, but I wouldn't put that past anyone. But I think that, Muji and AG made these decisions.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and piggyback off of that. I don't think Justin Fields is in a position to where he dictates what his pass catchers look like. He hasn't really, I guess you could say, earned that kind of stance or say when it comes to a coaching staff. This isn't, Aaron Rodgers or Jared Goff or Matthews, these veteran guys who've been doing it for a long time and have kind of earned that respect of the coaching staff. But yeah, no, I think he had zero. And I know we've talked and we've joked about the need for a wide receiver on this roster is kind of a moot point. This is going to be a heavy running team. Personally, I've been on team get a wide receiver 2 in the building. You got Alec Pierce out there, Jacoby Myers, 2 of the favorite options in terms of potentially bringing in. So I'm just going to ask you this question: If the New York Jets have the opportunity to bring in, say, an Alec Pierce or a Jacoby Myers, where do you stand on that? Do you think it's worth bringing in a guy right now, giving him some capital, getting him in the building, getting a team-friendly deal that's good to them and good for us, to have them there to be the backup to a Garrett Wilson? Or do you think at this current stage of things, it's kind of a moot point?
I would lean with the latter. And here's why, because I think both of those guys that you mentioned, especially Alec Pierce, you're that's a rental. Right, you don't know what he's going to offer. He's on a 1 year, last year's deal. You don't know if you're going to be able to re-sign him. I'm just very hesitant at this point in giving up any sort of high capital for role players, especially on a team where that the coaching staff and the direction has been clearly laid out for us. That we're going to be a ball control, pound it down your throat, run first offense, right? Those secondary and tertiary weapons are going to be the Mason Taylors and the Breece Halls, and then the sprinkle of the other wide receivers, so on and so forth. Listen, we got a quarterback that call it what it is, Gunny. He struggles to get off that first read, right? So what good is a wide receiver? Now, I'm not gonna say what good is a wide receiver 2, but I don't know if it's of paramount importance when the juice of what you have to give up really ain't worth the squeeze. I think you save all the high capital that you got, figure out how to maneuver your way into choosing your quarterback of the future next year if you're not picking high enough for that.
Okay, so staying on that topic there, so I got to ask, man, are you a believer that Justin Fields can potentially be the guy for the New York Jets? Or do you think more likely he's just pretty much a bridge until we find our guy in next year's draft?
Yeah, listen, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think he is the bridge. I think he is a 2-year bridge until the Jets can find or draft their quarterback of the future. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just don't see in year 6 now or year 7, whatever Justin Fields is going into, year 6. It hasn't clicked yet. He's on his 3rd team now. It hasn't clicked. I don't expect it to click here. They're gearing this team up to support him to be, to play into his strengths, right? They're going to keep things simple. I think there's going to be we talk about a lot of RPO, a lot of his choice on whether to run, stuff that he's familiar with, looking at the keys, when to pull the ball, when to, keep it in the gut and let the running back take it, when to pull it. A lot of more simplistic, route concepts. You're going to see a lot more horizontal stuff, as opposed to, playing the deep middle of the field, which he has trouble getting to because he's just always a tick late. And then you have some speed sources, especially with Arian Smith, who can stretch the defense and keep him honest.
Right.
But I think it's going to be a lot of, I think the passing game is going to be a lot of dinking and dunking, a lot of, misdirection and play action, with an occasional long shot here and there. But you're going to see 60 to 65% of the time, they're going to be running the ball. They're going to try to keep their offense on the field and keep the other team's offense off the field.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on a quick spot here. So
Go ahead.
if you're drafting your quarterback next year, who's your ideal choice for quarterback early on, obviously, in the collegiate year?
My quarterback one right now is Cade Klubnik, the kid out of Clemson.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's got it. I think he's got, none of them are finished prospects, obviously, and there's a lot of football yet to be played and a lot of determination that has to be played, but gathering everything that I've done and I've seen and I've watched and I've scouted, I don't think that there's a better processor in this class, even including Archie Manning. I don't think there's somebody who processes and understands how to progress through his reads and throw ball with anticipation and throw into tight windows, at the right time. He's, very, very mobile, although I wouldn't say he's a dual threat quarterback. He's still very mobile, like in the realm of like a Daniel Jones or a Baker Mayfield, where, they're not going to get you 600 and 700 yards with their legs, but you have to, they can make plays off platform. And Cade Klubnik's got he's got a decent to above average arm. I think he needs to get a little stronger. I think he has some troubles. He had some troubles last year in kind of bailing a little too quick. I think he's got to step up, trust what's around him and step into the pocket as opposed to bailing over, perceived or simulated pressures. And that's just experience. That's just, starts, reps that he needs to get through. But, right now I'd say that he's my number one quarterback. I don't think Arch Manning comes out, but more than likely if Arch were to come out, I think he'd probably fall in that number one spot. He just hasn't played enough,
Right.
I think he's got 4 or 5 starts under his belt, something like that. So you don't know what kind of quarterback he's going to be. But yeah, I would say Cade Klubnik is my number one. I also like Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback, a whole heck of a lot. And the kid from Indiana, Mendoza, I also think is really good.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think, listen, it's going to be one of those years like it was 2 years ago. Or when was the Jane Daniels year? Was that last year?
That was last year. Yeah.
Yeah. As it was last year, where there's going to be 5 or 6 quarterbacks, I think, that go in the first round. So
Wow.
it's just a matter of, and they're all going to be different types of quarterbacks. And then 27, I think, is going to be even better quarterback class than 26. Because you're going to have Arch, you're going to have DJ Lagway from Florida. I think you'll possibly see Lenore Sellers if he doesn't come out this year.
Yeah.
You're going to have those 3. I think, in 27, if those 3 are all in the class, you're looking at the first 3 picks in the draft. So
damn. The first 3. Okay.
Yeah.
So you think the Jets get their quarterback this draft or next draft? If you had to bet today.
I think that if I had to bet, I think they'll get him in 26.
26. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my thought process. Okay. All right. We got a little off track in terms of the 53. You know what I'm saying? Giving you guys a little sprinkle of what the future might look like for the New York Jets. So you're welcome. Yeah. But we did talk about a wish list, right? So we talked about the practice squad, and there's the opportunity now for the Jets to, of course, solidify their 53-man roster, getting themselves a couple of gems potentially, some players who got released today. And and you have a wish list of individuals that I thought was also pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and break this down, and you explain to us.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how much of a wish list. I guess you can call it a wish list. Like guys that I would target. Put it that way. And you can't see
Okay.
very good.
Hold on, I think I might have to edit it a little bit.
Yeah. That's fine.
So let me go ahead and do that real quick. But the first player on there, just so it's Essa Pole, offensive tackle from the Chiefs.
Yes, from Clemson. So he was a undrafted free agent that the Jets actually brought in on a 30 visit. So they have some they had some interest and they had some experience with him. Bigger guy from Washington State, can play right or left. Very, very physical. Got that that Samoan blood in him. And how those guys are built. Those are no joke. And I'm actually very, very shocked that Kansas City kind of exposed him. I thought that he would be a guy that they would that they would keep and kind of just let learn. But they had some, they obviously had some, different ideas. Bigger, like I said, a bigger guy, physical, 6'5", 320 pounds. Just a guy who can just go at it. He was dominant in the Shrine Bowl last year. I think a guy that I think has a bright future. For me, he's a guy that I would dump Max Mitchell real quick for him.
Okay. All right.
Probably for both of the top two guys.
So yeah, talk to us about Jacobs.
So Jacobs is, he had, I think, 11 starts last year for the Patriots. Again, another guy who's big. He's long. I think he's more of a fit into the scheme that Tanner Angstrom gonna want to play. A tackle that can get out in movement more so than Paul is. He's a guy that plays very well in movement. Again, true swing tackle possibilities, can play the left, can play the right. And, you're talking a guy who's 25, 26 years old, who has almost 20 starts under his belt. I just think that experience can kind of really, really benefit a team, because, we talk about Gunny, we talk about the strength of this Jets team being, the offensive line,
right.
But we don't really talk about the strength of the team being the offensive line. We talk about the strength of the team being the 5 starters.
The starters, yeah.
One of those tackles goes down right now, and Max Mitchell or Chooks has to get in there. God. I don't know if I'm that confident. So I think for me, bringing in a backup tackle is something that's of paramount importance for me, even if it's at the expense of my 10th offensive lineman, Marquise Hayes. I let go of a guard or something like that, or I let go of Xavier Newman to bring in another tackle. I think that, to me, that would be a paramount importance.
Okay, fair enough. You've mentioned about the Jets needing some edge help, right? We're looking a little light when it comes to that. We've got some uncertainties there. Brennan Jackson being your guy, the number 3 from the Rams. What do you think about him?
Brennan Jackson. He's a guy that I was surprised to see get cut. First off, he's the big, he's got a big body, 6'3.5", 275 pounds. Good physical, strong at the attack, can play the run, but he's got some pass rush chops to him. I'm surprised to see the Rams didn't keep him, because I thought that there was a lot of upside with him. He was a Senior Bowl participant a couple years ago, got hurt. Got hurt on the first day and kind of missed the rest of practice. But ended up still going in the 5th round for to the Rams, and this preseason really jumped off. Was by far one of the more impressive edge rushers throughout the NFL and through the preseason. So he's a guy that I think, like I said, has got the body that AG kind of likes, the big body that AG kind of likes on the edge, but he's got some pass rush chops to go with it. So he's a little bit, more of, he's got that skill set that Michael Clemens lacks, but the physical chops to maintain and set the edge in the run that Michael Clemens also has. For me, I think that that's a no-brainer. he's a no-brainer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How much do you think? So, how much you think this would cost to get a guy like a Brennan Jackson in the building?
It wouldn't cost anyone. They're all exposed to waivers.
Ooh.
All these guys are exposed to waivers, man. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Tony Jefferson's a vested veteran. He could sign with the Jets right now if they wanted to. Isaiah Simmons, he's a vested veteran. He can sign with the Jets right now. Dan Skipper, Boogie Basham, DeMarvion Leal, those are all vested veterans, so they can sign with any team right now. They don't have to go through the waiver process.
Okay. All right. So what about Tyreek Smith and Chris Paul? You got two linebackers here. I kind of feel like the linebacker room is a little bit, it's a strength on this team, but maybe that's just me. What are your thoughts about bringing in those two guys and why you want to go that linebacker route?
Again, Tyreek Smith he's an interesting one. I think that what he offers is that blitzing possibilities. You know, like he can play that Sam linebacker, something that we thought Jamin Davis was going to do. You know, in that base set, be that third linebacker, that strong side linebacker that lines up over the inside shade of the tight end. Kind of more of a physical guy, but he can also blitz, and that's something that Steve Wilkes is going to want to do. He blitzes his linebackers. I vision Tyreek Smith in our defense kind of being like that, a little bit more like that. Steadying factor that Alex Anzalone, who could do a little bit of everything. He's a big guy, 6'3", 245 pounds, and he played on that Ohio State team with GW, Jason Fields, Ruckert, so on and so forth. So to me, that makes sense. Chris Paul is, this is another, and it just shows what good drafters, like how good they have in the LA Rams, man. Because Paul was a 5th-round pick this past year. He was a top 50 player for me overall in the class. He's a Mike. He's a little bit of an undersized Mike. He's a guy that moves sideline to sideline. For me, a guy like Chris Paul is a guy that you take the chance on the talent, right? And you try and you figure it out. Like, I would easily get rid of any of our linebacker 4, linebacker 5 to take on a guy like Chris Paul. Do I think they will? No, because you just signed Jamie Sherwood to big money to play the Mike, and Kiko Mayanoa, who you just spent draft capital on, also plays the Mike. So, probably that's probably more of a wish than it is anything. But like I said, I just think at some point, like other teams are going to do with Malachi Corley, where you just say, okay, this guy is, he's too good to not put on my roster and figure it out. I think that's the case with Chris Paul.
Cool. I'll tell you this next name on your list, when I saw this guy get cut, I was absolutely shocked. I would be ecstatic if the Jets made this move and brought him in potentially as their top waiver wire priority. Jelani Woods, tight end for the Colts. This kid is 26 years old. He's 6'7", 255 pounds. He can catch. He can block.
He can catch. He can catch. He's a unique bird. Here's the thing. I'm not sure. I'm just being honest. I'm not sure how much more of an effective blocker he is right now than Ruckert. I'm just being I'm calling it like I see it. I don't think where I think Issa Pohl or Jacobs or Jackson or Tyreek Smith would be clear upgrades to the positional room. I'm not sure if Jelani Woods is that much more of an upgrade than Ruckert. That's my opinion. A lot of people think differently. Okay. I can only give you what I see and what I know, man.
Yeah, I've been a fan of Jelani Woods in terms he's had some issues at the quarterback position. They haven't been able to utilize him, see him come to his full potential. But he played at Oklahoma State. I think he was Oklahoma State.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to stay healthy yet either.
True, that's been an issue with him as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jets need tight end help, I would think, man. I think Jeremy Ruckert being the guy that we wind up keeping yet again, kind of it's screaming to me help. Like the Jets need help when it comes to the tight end position.
Yeah.
He's the only notable name that I felt was released and is available. Is he? Wait a minute. Can he be claimed or is he considered a veteran? Because he's been in the league for.
No, to be a vested veteran, you have to be in the league 4 years or more.
He's not been in for 4 years. I feel like Jelani's been in for a
No,
minute.
he's probably going into year 4.
Going into year 4. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, fair enough, fair enough.
Same thing with Trey Palmer is another guy who's going into year 4.
Okay.
He's
That
the
makes
receiver. He was out of Nebraska. He's got some special team chops in terms of returning kicks. Trey Palmer's a fast MFer. He's super fast. He's a guy he's Arian Smith, man. He's Arian Smith. He's got 4.2 speed and questionable hands.
Questionable hands.
So how many of those guys? How many of those guys do you need on the roster? I'm not sure.
We got one. I think one is enough. You know what I'm saying? You take a shot at one. We got our guy already.
Yeah.
We got a question though from E-Boogie. E-Boogie is now an 11-month member of the Fire Team, man. Appreciate your support, E-Boogie, man. Looking forward to the draft this weekend. You too, Dom. Looking forward to the draft. We're doing that either Friday or Saturday, so we'll figure that out here probably tomorrow. But E-Boogie asked a question. He goes, which player or players are just a spot holder for the Jets, and are there any O-line men you guys like? Oh, any O-line men that we like.
Interior O-lineman?
Yeah.
Well, I have one here on the list. Luke Kandra from who was released from the Panthers. Again, he was another. He's a rookie. He could play either guard spot. He could probably also play center. Went to Cincinnati. Went undrafted, which I was shocked. I thought he was a lot better than someone that went undrafted. But again, physical specimen. Really, really light on his feet, good hands. A guy who I think can be real good in interior line depth. Now, in regard to which players are the spot holders, I think, probably 51, 52, and 53 on the roster, whoever that is. I would probably say it's, maybe Marquise Hayes or Xavier Newman, whichever interior guy they don't like, or maybe Braden McGregor, maybe Xavier, maybe Gibson. I'd probably say that those are the last, or maybe Zaire Barnes. One of those four are probably the placeholders. You're muted again, Gunny.
My bad.
That's right.
We talked about some of those guys that are vested veterans. Is there somebody else on this list that you feel like is somebody that we as fans should know about, potentially to keep an eye out here as they put in these waivers starting tomorrow?
I'm curious to see. Like I said, I think the top three. I would, if I had any say in it, I would put claims on all three of them. Okay. And again, you got to remember how the waiver wires work for this part. It's not like you make a pick and you go down to the bottom line. The Jets are the 7th team, so as long as one of the top 6 teams don't also put a claim on a guy, they can put 20 claims in and they'll get awarded all 20 guys. So the more claims as long as teams 1 through 6 don't have claims in it, and the Jets put a claim in, they'll be a Jet.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it doesn't. So it's not like you make a pick and go to the bottom. It doesn't work like that. It's
not like in fantasy football. So it's not like fantasy football how it swaps out. I did not know that. I thought that once you can put them in, you get the one, and of course it goes down the line. So you mean to tell me if they wanted to, they could? I mean, of course the caveat is whoever you claim you're putting on the 53-man roster. So
correct.
You want to let go. So
correct.
Keeping that in mind, if they wanted to, they could put a claim for every single player right now on this list. And if all of them are available come waiver claim 7, they would get literally every single player on this list.
Correct.
That's crazy. I did not know that. I thought that it was kind of like fantasy football where you get the one, then you drop back down in the waiver system. Okay.
Nope. All right. They stay there. So, Tennessee, I expect one of those 2 tackles to go to Tennessee. I expect one of those 2 tackles at least to be claimed by one of the first 6 teams, if not both of them, which is unfortunate. Now, the only good thing is that the Patriots are one of those first 6 teams, so they're not going to make a claim on a guy they just cut waivers. Yeah. So it gives you that much more hope.
So only 5 teams you got to get by to get one of those guys.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, listen, and somebody asked is there a deadline to pick up the waiver wire, guys? I think it's 48 hours by Thursday. I think it's Thursday. It could be tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure it's 48 hours that the waivers will run. And then they run every day after that, but the initial waiver run will happen in 48 hours. So all the teams will submit their picks, and the NFL will go down and say, okay, Tennessee, you're first. You've been awarded, Tyreek Smith, and then 2 through 4 didn't put in claims, and Team 5 put in a claim for Bo Braid, and they got awarded him, and the Jets get awarded Essa Pole and Chris Paul because they put in 2 claims, and blah 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 blah. And then after that, teams will then these guys will go on to practice squads, right? They'll either be assigned, they'll either choose to join another team's practice squad, or they'll revert back to the practice squad of their former team that released them. And anybody, you can pick up anybody off of a practice squad at any time. So if we put Jamal Pritchett on our practice squad, he's, as long as you each week you have a certain amount of guys that you can protect. Mm-hmm. You can either bring up or can protect from not being plucked. But you can only do that a certain amount of times. And each week there's, somebody can come in and take a guy off our practice squad. They just have to then put them on the active 53. Roster. Correct. Right. So okay. There's a lot of movement that happens like that.
There's a lot, man. There's a lot of nuances, right? Of things that you're not aware of until you talk to somebody like yourself who's got the rules and kind of figured out, because I did not know that aspect about the waivers. I knew the practice squad thing, you can go ahead and get plucked. But the waivers one is really it's really kind of shocking to me, because I'm like, wow, that means that's crazy to me that you wouldn't just get the one and then again, I guess it makes sense, right? If that's how the NFL does it. Yep. I'm being biased here because this is how I've learned it through playing fantasy football. Obviously, big difference. So learn something new tonight on the show, man. I appreciate that. Yep. E-Boogie with a super chat. Appreciate you, E-Boogie, man. Always appreciate the love and support for the channel. He asks, I wish the Jets could have traded Warren and Corley. I think that's more of a comment than a question. I
think they tried to trade Warren. And if you looked, if you paid attention, if you had the ability to do so today, there was a lot of movement for those kind of low end backup tackles. A lot of tackles got traded today for future 6th and future 7th. So I'm sure Carter Warren was in the teams were having discussions about Carter Warren. And listen, they tried. But most of the time, the team's got to be really keen on the guy, because they're saying to the Jets, all right, well, what are we going to do? Why are we going to give you anything for Corley? When we can just go put a claim on him once you cut him.
True.
You know what I mean?
Right, true.
So
in terms of what you've seen thus far, right, the 53-man roster, the cuts, how are you feeling about this roster and this team's direction going into the season?
I think their direction is clear. I think their direction is, like I said, they want to be a run first ball control offense and play some really, really hard-nosed physical defense. I think the direction is clear. I don't know how successful it's going to be. I think that we have to, take the fandom away and realize that this is, really year 1 of this kind of retooling, and there's going to be a year 2 of the retooling, and that'll be while we're getting rid of all that dead money from the Aaron Rodgers and the Devontae Adams contracts and so on and so forth, where you're not going to have full capacity to do your spending. But, right now you spent year 1 changing the culture. Year 2, this roster is going to look so much different, Gunny. They're going to be, I think there's 27 guys that are in the last year of their deals. If you go just 27. Up and down the offense, of the 6 wide receivers that we have, 2 of them are under contract next year. Of the tight end room, only Mason Taylor's under contract next year. The offensive line, 3 starters are under contract. 3 starters are under contract. The 2 tackles
Yeah.
and Tippmann.
This and Titman,
Yeah.
both guards.
The running backs, 2 of the 3, actually, 2 of the 4, including Nwanu, are under contract. Beck's not under contract either. You know, the quarterbacks, 1 is under contract. He's only under contract for 1 more year. You know, you're going to see a lot of new faces in there.
Yeah. Next year should be interesting.
Yeah.
Truman asked a question. I actually forgot about Giovanni. Whatever happened to Giovanni Williams, Quincy and Quinning's brother? Is he on the roster or did he get cut?
I don't even think I don't even think he I don't think he was ever on the roster. I think he was invited for a workout, like a try,
Okay.
like an invite. Yeah, I don't think he ever made it.
All right. If Lazard is good, why all the haterade? We don't think Lazard is good. That's the thing. He's a good blocker, maybe. I don't know really the receiving part.
He's good at what he offers.
Yeah.
That's it.
Ah, man. Well, I mean, I guess there you have it. That's the 53-man roster. And as we were just discussing, this is obviously going to change. Keep an eye out for these waivers over the next couple of days. That can really change the dynamic of what this team winds up looking like. Dom, I appreciate your time, brother, man. I know I said an hour. We just got to that hour mark, man. Tell the people where they can go ahead and catch you because I know you're all over the place, you know what I'm saying, doing some spot appearances. So where can they find you at, brother?
Yeah, man. It is you can always catch me on the Talking Jets show on Ryan's channel, Jets Talk 24/7, or the Talking Jets Network. It's streamed through both. That's Mondays at 8:00. And it's starting tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. I'm going to be co-hosting a show on the Sick Podcast channel with a guy who really mentored me in this whole, scouting game. John Vogel. He's got and a couple other national scouts and broadcasters and media people that we're going to be. It's going to be really focused around college football and the prospects and so on and so forth. So new venture, real excited to do that because Gunny, that's like really that's my wheelhouse. That's my wheelhouse. That's my bread and butter here.
Hey, brother, I appreciate it, man. Listen, I've learned quite a bit talking to you, watching you break down film, man, trying to explain to me what to look for, and I appreciate it because it's allowed me to see the game from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. So check out Dom. I'm telling you, if you're trying to get a better understanding and grasp of how to evaluate individual players and evaluate talent, he kind of simplifies it for you so you kind of understand some of the basics, what you need to look for, to where when you're watching a player, you're like, oh, okay, I can see how this guy can get better with this, that, or the other. So I appreciate you, Dom, because that's helped me out. Between you and Joe Blewett, I feel like I can go ahead and pretty much look at some tape now and understand what I'm looking at whenever I actually watch tape. So I appreciate you, brother. And I appreciate taking the time out to jump on the show with us tonight and hanging out at the Hangar. You have a good night. And then, I'll be having you back again, most definitely.
Yeah, dude, we'll talk soon. All right, brother. I appreciate you.
Easy day. Have a good night.
Later, man.
All right, that was Dom C. Again, his Twitter and his channel is in the description. Definitely go subscribe, man. Go follow, man. Dom really does provide some incredible insight on what you're looking for and what to look for when it comes to this game of football that we all love. But there it is, man. I mean, the 53-man roster is not what I think a lot of us thought it was going to be. Some people were cut that we all thought, shouldn't have been cut. But the fact of the matter is, I saw something today from one of on Jets Twitter, and it made perfect sense, right? The New York Jets haven't made a playoff in going on 15 years. So it really doesn't matter who we cut because this team hasn't proven to us that they are good or can be good. And until we start seeing it, these players haven't earned the right for us to get outraged because they're no longer on the roster. So it made a lot of sense. This team is trying to figure it out to get to a point where they're a winning organization. And until then, no one player is beyond expendable. So with that said, I appreciate you all for hanging out with us at the Hangout tonight. Thank you, Dom, for taking the time out, man, and coming and chop it up with us and hanging out with us and kind of breaking down what you saw in terms of this 53-man roster plus the cuts. I appreciate you all for chopping up with me, man. I saw a lot of you guys getting in here tonight to watch the show, so I appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Again, we're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers. Would love to get there in season. That would be freaking awesome. We're going to be giving a Joe Namath autographed jersey away to one of the first 2,000 subscribers. So all you got to do is jump onto YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and you're entered. to be one of the 2,000 that could potentially win the autographed Joe Namath jersey. I'm going to go ahead and actually take a picture of that, set that whole thing up so we can go ahead and pretty much I can post that so you can see what it looks like. It's a beautiful jersey. I think you guys will love it. It's my thank you, or my way of saying thank you to you guys for the support, for the love, for the Fire Team members. I'll be seeing you guys this weekend for our fantasy football draft. We're looking at either doing that thing Friday or Saturday. I know there's some concerns in regards to your schedules. We're gonna make it work on what's best for the team, for the league. So be on the lookout for that on the Discord. I'll be breaking that on the Discord. But yeah, jump on Sleepers. Make sure your teams are getting. Since I've seen some of you guys changing your rosters or your team names and logos already. Awesome. Keep at it. We're gonna get this draft this weekend. So again, I appreciate you guys. Appreciate the love. I see you in the Dark Soldier, man. Appreciate you, and I'll talk to you like I always do offline. But everybody else, man, to include Dark Soldier, man, have a good night. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you guys next week. Football is only 12 days away. 12 days away, man, and we're back at it. Football is officially back. So a couple of weeks, man. One more Hangar Hangout before we're officially talking about football games happening. So I'm excited. Appreciate you all. Have a good night. And yeah. Till next time.
I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you ever lost? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance. I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you ever lost? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance, man.
Any players that's here now, put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. Listen, there are going to be some challenges, but with challenges becomes opportunity, gets opportunity. But here's what I do know: we're the freaking New York Jets. So we're